Some leaders leave footprints, others leave libraries. You're tuning into the Authors on Mission podcast, where industry giants become literacy legends. In every episode, we talk with authors who turn their brilliance into books that transform lives. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authors on Mission. Welcome to your authorship experience. So, imagine you're flipping through a photo album of America from the last decade, but instead of snapshots, you're reading poems that capture the raw emotion of living through the unprecedented political upheaval. Today on our podcast, we're going to be talking with Andrea LeDew, whose collection of poems, Polemics, political poems and prose, serves as both a time capsule and a battle cry for anyone who feels like they're watching their country transform before their eyes. From her early days as a child support attorney to homeschooling 4 children, Andrea brings a uniquely grounded perspective to the chaos of modern American politics. This conversation is going to be about how personal experience becomes political poetry and how one writer is using her voice to guide others through the darkness toward something better. Without further ado, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you, Danielle. It's very nice to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. I'm really looking forward to this. But before we dive into the writing world and all of your poems, I think it's important to get a little bit of background on who you are and what inspired you to start writing. I mean, you've lived quite a journey going from Minnesota to Florida, from lawyer to homeschooling mother. How do these transitions shape your worldview?
Well, I have always loved writing, of course, and most writers have. I ended up going to law school rather than going the English major route to continue on to a PhD or something like that, like one of my professors wanted me to do. And but the reason was that I just didn't want to be, doing literary criticism. That did not sound like very much fun to me. I was much more interested in real life and helping people to some extent. So I did go to law school. And in between those two experiences of being in college and going to law school, I went to Germany for a year. And I was very lucky to get a scholarship and was able to spend 10 months in a German dormitory and almost exclusively hanging out with German students, which was fantastic, good for my understanding of German, and also good for learning about the world and how other people see us. I mean, I was corrected for the first time for calling myself an American when a Canadian caught me on it and said, "You're not an American, you are a US citizen." Mm-hmm. So he wanted to make the distinction because America is a very large place encompassing North and South America. And we tend to think in very narrow terms about just us, and especially now that everyone's concentrating on America first.
Right. Yeah. I actually, when you said that, you're not American, it made me think for a second. I'm like, wait, what? So have that clarification. I was baffled for a moment as well. But no, that makes a lot of sense, and I can see how that definitely shaped your worldview and kind of led you into creating these poems that we are going to be chatting about today. That, and of course, with your children, and you've been blogging for a while, so I think everything accumulates to this moment. That being said, then I'm wondering if you'd like to shine a spotlight on the book itself. I know you have a copy with you today. Can we show it off?
I do. This is my dog-eared copy. Polemics, political poems and prose.
Did you have a say in the cover design?
Oh, yes. Yes, exclusively. I had the only say in the cover design. I hope it appeals.
Oh, it does for sure. Yeah, I always like to ask because I never know if the publisher designs it, or maybe you outsource to somebody else, or if you designed it yourself. Which category did you fall under?
Well, in this case, I designed it myself. I did have a little input. My daughter is an artist. Actually, both of my daughters are very good artists, and the one who happens to live in the same complex as I do, she critiqued my first designs, which were not as good. So, okay. But once I got this one, she said, "No notes." Which is good.
I like that. Well, great, and it's always great to have somebody to run your ideas by, and just have on your team as you're going through this process. That's good that your children were supportive of it. So, hey, let's chat a little bit about the book itself.
Mhm.
I understand, the subtitle, for example, says it talks about both nightmares and triumphs. So, what do you consider to be like the biggest nightmare and the most significant triumph from this period that we chat about in the book?
Well, in my opinion, the biggest nightmare was January 6th,
Mm,
because that was a moment of rebellion, basically. And even though it started off as maybe a peaceful protest, it devolved into something more. And the fact that the aim of the protest was to undermine a part of our political process that's ingrained in the Constitution, namely the Electoral College. They wanted to just stop Mike Pence from ratifying what all the states had decided. And of course, based on the idea that they thought the election was fake and all that. But the fact that someone would attack something that is so central to our election process made me think, this is not good. This is not going in a good direction. And the president was, somewhat lax in responding, to say the least. So,
understood. Yeah. So, I mean, that is a significant event in our recent history. So, that's just one of the many topics you could cover too. So, if anybody's listening today,
yes.
sneak peek of what they could be in store for.
Yeah, in particular, the poem Great Patriots has to do with September 11th, and it basically takes the point of view of one of the protesters there, or the rioters, depending upon which side of the political fence you happen to lie, and talks about the enthusiasm, for breaking everything, And I'd be happy to read it for you if you want to hear it. But,
Oh, please do. We would love
yes?
to.
Okay,
Yeah.
just get it out. Here we are. And each of these poems has an introduction. So in case you don't remember the event yourself, you can look over the introduction and then you'll know all the pertinent facts. Okay, so this poem is called Great Patriots. Cowboy boot prints on the beach rage against the storm. Jump for treats just out of reach. Clash against reform. Hail a flag of Southern pride. Wallow in the past. Spurn elites. The smart deride. Let the first be last. Storm the Bastille. Climb the gates. The barricades stampede. Vault the steps and crash the glass, for nothing shall impede the cause of freedom, liberty, the fight to stop the steal. And all the world shall feel our pain, our basest shame revealed. They do not understand us, or they do not care to know how useless this democracy to fight so vile a foe. We flaunt our grassroots legacy, our loyalty pristine. All hail, man of the people, though you're absent from the scene. They cannot know what's good for them, this vapid voting fray. Americans did not mean what they said election day. We want a new do-over. And if that's not in the cards, we'll gladly take autocracy if our man is in charge. A red hat for Abe Lincoln, leaders cowering from our screams. And all the world is watching us. What next? The guillotines? So that was written January 7th, 2021. So the day after.
Right. Wow. Very powerful stuff. It
Yeah.
definitely gives a new take on it as opposed to somebody reading it themselves, the way you're, putting different emphasis on certain words. So have you ever considered doing like an audiobook version of this by any chance? I'm just curious.
Yes. Yes, I have it in the works. There's someone in our city who is going to be helping me with that. And I think I'll be recording in the middle of October. And then we'll, hopefully it'll be out before Christmas.
Understood. Yeah, exactly. I'm really looking forward to that. By Christmas, everyone, then we should be, keeping our calendars, keeping up to date. Is there a certain place we could, keep tabs on for that release? Is there a website that we should be getting in touch with you just to know when it would be out?
Yes, as I said in my introduction, I've been blogging for a really long time, since 2010. And my website is called For Random Learning Comes, frlcnews.com, FRLC News.
Nice, nice. Okay, so we're going to put that in the description box of this podcast today so everyone can click on over, stay up to date with the audiobook version, but in the meantime, pick up the paperback as well.
Yes, and I do have a link on the site to a universal book link that you can go to whichever online distributor you care for, or you could just ask for it at your local bookstore.
I like it. Perfect. So I'd love to transition a little bit into the writing process itself. The book does balance a ton of political commentary, but you also include really good writing skills, timeless, good literature, like the kind of things that people expect from poetry, for example. So it must have been an interesting process to convert everything we're thinking and feeling now into prose. I'm wondering if you have a certain process for doing that.
For the essays and the short story, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's a lot of emotions and feelings and thoughts and facts going in there, but you were able to translate it into such a clear way on the page. So what was your process for doing so?
Well, I think, you start with the feeling. So for me, a lot of it is reaction to current events. And current events have been rather tumultuous lately, so there's been plenty of fodder for good writing, in my opinion. So a lot of it is trying to understand the point of view of people who disagree with me. Obviously I'm more on the liberal end. This is kind of a collection for patriotic liberals, is what I like to call it, or people who have flagging patriotism. And but I'd like to think about what could the other side possibly be, because my father was conservative. He was not a Trump supporter, but he was very conservative, watched Fox News, everything. So I have been, I've been raised by some conservative people. I have met lots of conservative people in the homeschooling realm. I live in a conservative area. I live in Jacksonville, Florida. You can't get a whole lot more conservative than that. So it's been really important to me to kind of look through the different reactions that people have to events and then try to consolidate them and compare them to our American values. So how does this particular event violate certain American values? So heaven forbid, the shooting of Charlie Kirk, terrible, terrible event. People are going in bad places when they react to it. Everyone should commiserate with the family, obviously. But why does it bother us? The reason is because many of us have experiences on college campuses where we could roam and we could talk freely and we could feel safe. And this really violates our safety, and it violates the idea that we can say anything we want, anytime we want in this country. That is basic. Everyone was taught that in school. And if you feel like that's going away, that's very threatening. So that's kind of the way I approach it, is how do different people look at it? What are the facts that led up to it? And how should we react?
Understood. Well, thank you for walking us through that. And I think it's clear that, the goal for this book, therefore, is to think about the dark times people have when they considering these events. Like you just mentioned that Charlie Kirk led us into a dark place. So I think that's kind of the overlapping theme of your book is guiding people through those dark times and, kind of keeping a positive spin on it, maybe some hope. Or is there a sort of message that you think is overarching similar to that?
Yeah, well, I think we have to find a way to get together. It can't be two sides in a country forever. That led to the Civil War. We don't need people who are diametrically opposite. Everyone has things in common. I have a poem I could read for you that could give you an idea of what I'm talking about.
Let's do it.
All right.
I see why it's a dog-eared book from flipping from
Yes. I mean, this is not your typical chat book, I can tell you that, because it's got 78 entries, and each one has an introduction. So it's 352 pages long, which is pretty long for a poetry and essay collection, And it also has one short story, which is very cute, I think. Anyway, the point of the poem is it's a liberal wish list. And I had heard Mitch McConnell talk about, these liberals with their liberal wish list, and being very derisive about it, about liberals wanting certain things. And so I wrote a poem that was something like, I wish there wasn't an L word. I wish we could get along, and it goes on like that. So that was my list. Because I have, like everyone in this country, I've lost friends. Even though I enjoyed their company, I never wanted them to go away, but your interests diverge because you have this basic political difference, and it's a shame.
No, it is a shame. It is a shame. But like you said, the only thing we could do is hope, right? Keep a positive spin on it. So we've chatted a bit about the book itself and a bit about, your writing process. So I think it's important for us to just kind of think about like what's next then. I know you're thinking about the audio version, but are you considering perhaps any more poems or anything else in the works? I know you have the blogs, but what's on the horizon?
Yes. I have a novel that I am working on. I've got about 75,000 words written out of about 100,000, I hope. And it's set in Northeast Florida, and it's set on a garden estate, and it involves a group home of people with developmental challenges. So my son is diagnosed with autism and intellectual disabilities. Since he was born 25 years ago, I've had to deal with various issues in the disability lifespan, basically. Right. And, all the way from, trying to get preschool at the beginning or even get diagnosed at the beginning to trying to ensure that your Social Security doesn't get cut off, Unfortunately, we're in a position where it's not going to kill us if the Social Security is cut off. But then you think, okay, I'm having difficulties. We actually had our Social Security cut off twice this year. I'm having difficulties. So what's happening to the person who has very little education, who has no legal background, who does not have time to deal with this stuff? Are they just letting it lapse? Right. So I feel, anyway, so I feel I have something to say about disability as I do about politics. And, but in this book, it's much lighter. It's about a very feisty young woman who is, determined to keep her group home from being shut down. And the reason the owner wants to shut it down is because he can make money. It's Riverside. So
understood. So it's really exciting to hear that you've been working on this. What stage are you at for this? Is it pretty much finished or just still in the works?
I'd say I have about a quarter to go. So I've got everything set up. The final kind of action, the part at the very end before the denouement, that is coming right up, and I'm kind of pulling all the strings together at this point.
Pulling the strings together, got it. Kind of in that stage. Understood. Well, I guess we can kind of stay up to date via those same links that you shared with us earlier, and we can know when it's all ready to go. It's really exciting.
Yes, I have a newsletter there at the website, so you can sign up, and I'll let you know what's happening every 2 weeks.
I like that. Awesome. Well, hey, in that case, I'm really excited to hear about that. And as we begin to start wrapping up today, I just have to know, what would you say to the audience today if they're inspired by your journey, they love the mission, the work that you're putting out, the mission that you stand for, if they want to follow in your footsteps, write their own poems or prose, what would you say to them? What kind of tips could you potentially offer? What do you think?
I would say pay attention to what strikes you. So the things that stick in your mind. So a lot of times I'll wake up and there'll be a line in my head, and then I will grab that and I will go straight to somewhere where I can write it down. And often a poem will come from that, or an essay. So I'd say do that. Don't discount your own ideas, because this is a very tough publishing world right now. If you're waiting for someone to discover you, or if you're intent upon not doing it until it's perfect, why? You can get a lot more done. I mean, I waited till I'm in my 50s to really get active in the writing world, and people don't need to do that. Everyone at every stage of life has got something valid to say, and I've met some incredible poets that are in high school, and already have a wonderful voice. So I'd say go ahead and do it. We need more voices, not fewer.
Exactly. Yeah. And why wait, right? Just don't delay. Everyone has their own excuses, of course,
Yes,
but I've learned it myself. You need to just schedule it in, even if you think you're busy, even if you're feeling like you're not ready, just start putting some stuff down on the page, right?
Yeah. And that was a nice thing about, we moved in the past 3 years to closer to downtown in Jacksonville, and it's a quieter house. I don't have 4 children running around anymore. I have one person to worry about, who's my responsibility. But once we moved here, I was able to have a space for myself, like Virginia Woolf, a room of one's own is very, very nice to have. I can't close any doors, but it's still a space for me. And I was able to take time, every morning, or at least every couple mornings, and just spend an hour or two. And that's all it takes, an hour or two, couple, 3-4 hours a week, and you've got a novel by the end of the year. So it is doable.
All right. I love it. Yeah. Again, just keep going at it, small steps, and, before you know it, that book will be out and ready to go.
Get to know the writers in your area. So for instance, in Jacksonville, we have a local literary festival called Jacks by Jacks, and I've been submitting for years and years, but I finally got in the past couple of years and was able to read out loud, to an audience, my short stories. That is so validating when you get involved in something like that. Or even just the state, the Florida Writers Association state convention, just to see, all these people are doing the same thing I am. It's very helpful.
Yeah, of course. No, that's really inspiring too, and thanks for that tip also. I think we've learned a ton from you today. You obviously have a ton of wisdom, and yeah, people are just, I think it's an inspiration what you've done here, so thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think there's something for everyone. I know probably liberals would be more inclined to my book, but, we all need a message of coming together. So
I love it. All right. Well, hey, again, thank you so much for sharing everything with us. Thanks for coming on. And to all of our listeners, if you want to dive deeper into Andrea's work, you can find Polemics wherever books are sold. Follow her on the blog. We're going to put all the links in the description box of the podcast today. And just remember that on our show, we believe that expertise isn't about credentials, sometimes about having the courage to pay attention and the skill to transform the attention into something meaningful. So until next time, keep writing, keep observing, and keep finding your voice wherever it needs to be. Thank you so much for joining us today, Andrea. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
See you next time, everybody.
This is Danielle Hutchinson reminding you that somewhere, someone needs the book that only you can write. Visit authorsonmission.com to start your legacy. Until next time, keep leading, keep inspiring, and keep thinking in chapters. Have a great day.